All right, good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. We have started the recording and we are starting the recording for the South Sac Flooring Community Air Protection Steering Committee meeting. And today is Monday, July 24th, 2023. And I will be helping facilitate today with Vincent. And with that, I will welcome you all to the meeting and send it over to Vincent.
Okay, that's my cue. All right, everybody, welcome to the Steering Committee meeting, AB 617 South Sacramento Flooring Community Steering Committee meeting. And at this time, we're going to do the roll call. And so maybe I need to make this screen bigger. Okay, well, let's start with the steering committee. I'm Vince, co-lead. Stephanie's on vacation. If anybody's wondering where Stephanie's at, she's not going to be here. How about Chris?
Here.
Rhonda?
Here. Did we change the name of our committee? It says Community Air Protection. What happened to Air Qualities Committee or something?
We have not changed. The Community Air Protection is the name of the program that it's under. So.
Because we've been calling it something else for the last 5 years. So I'm wondering. Okay, I'm here.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Okay.
Bill?
Here.
Jesus?
Here.
I'm sorry, Bill, did you have more to say?
No, I was just saying good evening, everyone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm rushing through it, I guess. Good morning, good evening, everybody. And that is the steering committee members. Did I miss any? No. And so now is the Air District going to introduce themselves?
Vincent, I think you also had Chase.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chase, there he is.
Yep, sorry, I just joined the last meeting, so it's fine.
So Vincent, we'll call the rest of the steering committee members who aren't here. Would you like me? Do you have the list?
No.
Okay, I can help you with that.
Oh, wait, I do. It's right here. Sorry. Stephanie Williams, absent. Tito Hong, absent. Michael Lampkin, absent. John Rice, absent. And Patricia Shelby, absent. And Richard Falcone, the alternate for United Latinos, is absent as well. Okay, and so then I have the list of the Air District staff. Mark?
Present.
Janice?
Good evening.
Good evening. David?
I'm here. Hello, everybody.
Sarah?
Good evening, everyone.
Amy?
Hi, everyone.
Rafe Porter?
Good evening, everyone.
And then the CARB staff we have on our list is Adriana Smith.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Jennifer Magana.
Hi, everyone.
And Femi. Did I say that right?
Yes, Femi's fine, and I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. And then facilitator, CC Horbit. And at this time, I'm sorry.
No, just saying I'm here. Good evening.
Okay. I guess I just need to slow down. And at this time, would the people from the public like to introduce themselves? And that would be Barry.
Thank you, Vincent. I was just going to wait for it to be called. Hello, I'm Barry Boyd from the public. I do believe somebody's microphone is still left open. It's bleeding over you a little bit, Vincent, but good evening to everyone.
Thank you. Good evening, Barry. And Adrian Rim.
Adrian Wren, Valley Vision.
Welcome, Adrian. Okay, that's our roll call and introductions. And let's see, next on our list will be administrative items.
And so
Oh, go ahead.
Sarah will provide some meeting logistics real quick, just on the first few slides.
Okay, hello. So we have some meeting logistics for tonight. For anyone who is new or new to Zoom, we have staff available to help. If you have any technology issues, you can email the AB617 clerk at airquality.org, and somebody will contact you to help you out. You can also message the host and co-host in the message box if you're having any of those technical issues. For agenda items with steering committee discussion, the co-leads will announce, or Vincent in this case, will announce the format of the discussion. So if it's round robin, for example, the co-leads will call upon each member one by one to speak. After each member has spoken, then you're welcome to please raise your virtual hand if you have any additional comments or questions. So for the public comment period and any discussion that is not in the round robin format, if you'd like to speak, please raise your virtual hand. And a reminder, in order to raise your hand on Zoom, if you're on the computer, to please click on the reactions button and select the raise hand option. Then next to your name, you'll see there's a hand icon and you know that your hand is raised. If you are on the phone, you can press *9 and you'll hear automatic voice that's saying that your hand is raised and you'll wait to be called on. When you are called upon, please unmute yourself and click on the microphone on the lower left when you're using a computer, or if you're on the phone, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6. You are also welcome to send email comments to ab617clerk@airquality.org during the public comment period, and staff will help read those out to the committee. And a final last reminder for all of you that it is very appreciated but not required to have your camera on if you have any privacy concerns, because the meetings are recorded and posted on the district's YouTube channel and webpage. So with that, I will pass it off to CC.
Thanks, Sarah, for covering all that. And then I get to pass back to Vincent, who will cover some admin items, starting with the meeting minutes. So I will progress the slide and then Vincent, go for it.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting? I hope so.
Yes.
Are there any changes that need to be made or have any updates? And I'm going to put my phone on silent right now, because I think everybody's going to call me right now during the meeting. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to accept the minutes as read?
Motion?
Will someone like to accept a?
Second.
Okay, motion's made by Jesus and accepted by Chris,
Yes.
or seconded.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then we're going to move right into committee updates, and we're going to start with the Outreach Membership Committee update from Rhonda. And Rhonda, I like your hat, by the way.
That's because I'm having a bad hair day, okay? I ran and put this on because I said, oh, I'm in trouble. Hello, everybody. The Outreach Committee has been working behind the scenes to get some t-shirts so that we can take advantage of the various activities happening across the summer, where we can have a pop-up table to promote, air quality and what we're doing. Right now, I sent an order in for light blue t-shirts and tan with our logo on it. And I'm waiting for a mock-up. And once I see the mock-up and approve it, then they will start the job. So that's the latest update for that. Is this a good time to mention what we talked about at our meeting last week, Vincent and Janice?
Yes.
About having like an elevator speech or some kind of a bulleted talk sheet, so that when we go out, we're all speaking the same language, we're on the same page. That's what we requested at our meeting last week for the Outreach Committee.
Good.
Did you want me to respond, Rhonda? Or-
Yes, please.
Yeah, we started a draft of that, of the different accomplishments that the outreach committee has requested. It's currently being routed amongst the different divisions to see if they wanted to add anything else. We hope to get that to you guys, I want to say Wednesday morning, because we had just gotten it to the other divisions at the end of the day on Friday, I think, so.
Okay, sounds good.
Mhm.
And just so you know, Janice is gonna be out at, well, SAC Metro Air is gonna be out at the National Night Out that my association, North Laguna Creek Valley High Community Association, is sponsoring on the 1st of August. And I received your application today, I think it was. And so thank you. So you're in like Flynn. And anybody else who wants to attend, you're welcome to come. It's free. We're gonna have food trucks there. Lots of stuff to do for kids. Bounce house slide, magician, line dancer performance. We're gonna have mental health information there. A clinical licensed mental health practitioner will be there. Giving information about just tips about how you can keep your minds healthy. Okay. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report.
Actually, I want to mention that we are having our national night out also at the Ophir Mesa Grande Neighborhood Association. I sent information to Janice, so our gathering is not going to be as, as fine as Rhonda, but it's going to be, the community event, and we hope that some of you can attend.
What park is yours gonna be held?
It's a Mesa Grande
Okay,
Neighborhood Association.
okay, mine's gonna be at Shasta Community Park, over by the library.
Right. Janice, you got the information, right?
Yep, you're on our schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Bill, are you guys doing a national night out event this year?
We are not. We are partnering with Rhonda, so we're going to be on her coattails.
Excellent, excellent.
All right, thank you.
Rhonda, did you have any update on the business card?
I didn't do anything with it. I saw that you had sent it and I was waiting for everybody to weigh in on it. It seems like from what I read, people liked it. So if you want me to move forward with it, we can.
We can. So is it a business card? We're not going to have our names on there. It's just going to be what AB 617 is. It's kind of an introduction card is what it is.
That's what it looked like. I didn't see any names, just our business card. I think it might have had a QR code on it.
Yes, it had the QR code on the back side and it had AB 617 information on the front side.
So it was two-sided, yes.
Yeah.
Because I think I wrote you a question when I said, look like it's two-sided. Okay.
Okay, great.
So did everybody get a chance to see it? Who's here?
Yes, and I responded back to that.
Okay. Well, if everybody likes it, I don't know if we have a quorum here to vote on it, but
Yeah, I do.
We have a quorum.
we do have a quorum. Okay. So if everybody likes the card that you submitted that, right, Vincent?
Well, yeah, I just copied what you had first presented. We kind of changed it a little bit.
Okay, the second version that Vincent sent, I make a proposal that we go ahead and have cards made based on that format. So anybody
Are
want
we gonna vote on the second version?
the second version? Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with it.
And how many do you think we need to make, Rhonda?
Well, you think 500 is enough?
Yeah, that's
I
plenty.
don't want to overdo it, you know.
Mhm. Hopefully we could have, and you can hand them out on National Night Out.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how fast we can get that done. Okay.
Okay, motion's been made by Rhonda and you seconded it, Jesus?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Shall we call for a vote? All those in favor of having the cards printed that outreach committee worked on?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Sounds unanimous. Anybody opposed? Okay, well, good job, Rhonda.
All right, good job, Vincent.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Rhonda, the outreach committee report? Okay. On to the next item, and that would be, we were gonna have a SERP update, but we're gonna wait till after the district has their updates. And it looks like we're close to being right on time. Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody else on the subcommittee have anything they want to update? Any events coming up for the calendar, community calendar, anything like that?
If anybody's interested in mental health workshops or screenings for medical like diabetes and high blood pressure, there's some workshops that'll be coming starting in October and every month thereafter. And they'll be held at Macworld Partnership from 11 to 1 on Saturdays.
Is there a possibility we could table there too, Bill, and talk about the health and the risk associated with bad air and stuff like that, and get the word out about who we are?
Well, this one is a kind of a, I don't want to say private, but it's put on by another nonprofit. And so this is, they're doing this for their particular needs.
who is the provider, the mental health provider?
It's Coffee and Conversation Foundation, Inc.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So they'll be doing 3 workshops per month.
But to answer your question, Vincent, whenever there's a need, we are absolutely, here to serve. So whether it's at the community center or whether it's at the corporate office, you're welcome to use our facility as needed.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. You have been very helpful also with Mesa Grande Association. I really appreciate your willingness to
Oh,
support
of course,
both the
we're happy to
neighborhood
help.
associations.
There's a good group of folks, so happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other updates?
Was that for health? What was that? My thing froze. What were they talking about? Health?
Mental health.
Just mental health?
Well, it's going to be a workshop on mental health, but what goes with mental health is social services access and also your actual physical health. So there'll be screenings for your blood pressure and for diabetes as well.
Oh, it froze. I heard somebody say about bad air or something that
No, but it's all free. So
of having a table for bad air. That's when it froze. That's all I heard.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I said. Would there be an opportunity for us to go on table and talk about the AB 617 and the health risks associated with the bad air and what we're doing with the air monitoring in the community?
Oh, okay. I thought it was health because I don't know if Mark heard from him, but as a newly elected board of directors with WellSpace Medical Foundation, they wanted to do a outreach of allergies, mental health, all sorts of things. So as of the board meeting tomorrow, they're going to select me to work with what we're doing here to see if we can come together and work together and do outreach together as far as allergies, mental health, things of that nature. So tomorrow will be my first board of directors meeting.
That's awesome.
And I will come upstairs and see you, Mark.
And is there a general consensus with the committee that we'd be interested in helping and working with Chris if they wanted to have us table or talk about, present on what we've been doing in the community?
sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. We're with you, Chris. Good stuff.
All right.
Thanks for the update. And that's going to move us into our next item, which would be the district updates. And that would be starting with, I'll turn it over to Mark or Janice.
Thanks,
or David,
Vincent.
Or Amy or Sarah.
Yeah, we know how it is, at the district, we drew straws and they told me it rolled uphill. So
All right.
I've got them for today. We got a couple different updates. First, just a very quick reminder to everyone. And Vince, I want to call you out in particular in a good way that, thanks again. I know you've been doing a lot of outreach in the community on the open recruitment process. So just a reminder to everyone that the current recruitment is open. We'll be, as we get to the end of this month, we're going to keep it sort of rolling until we get everything filled. But the end of this month is when we do the first screening of everything. We do have at least one application so far. We're still in the process of screening everything. We'll keep the co-leads apprised, and then we'll bring it back to this full group. But just since we are still open for about another week, I just wanted to take a quick moment to remind everyone that when you're talking with your neighbors, your different associations, to go ahead and get that word out. So just a quick, more of a reminder as opposed to an update per se. A couple other updates just to share with the group. In our last meeting, I know that the steering committee themselves had talked a bit about the SAC EJC letter. At the end of that meeting, we were at, the steering committee members had asked just if we could share what the district was putting together. Everyone now, as part of the email distribution for tonight's meeting, did receive the memo that we put together for our board members, sort of in response to the SAC EJC memo. Just at a very high, I know you've all had a chance just to have it so you can read through it on your, to the extent you wish, but just at a very high level, you can see that where we went with our response was really more talking about what has been accomplished in the different areas that were identified in the letter. So we touched upon everything from, the additional communities that we continue to nominate. This South Sacramento Forum has been successful from the first year, but we do continue to nominate additional communities each year and have from the beginning. We talk about a lot of just the accomplishments that this committee has already done in terms of just the community monitoring plan. They are monitoring both the existing monitoring and now the lab out at Fern-Bacon Middle School. So, if you do have any questions on the memo, and I know this group is sort of still thinking if they were going to be doing a committee response, you do have the district's material there and handy to assist you in that. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them on that. Okay.
Mark, is there a chance you could put up the response up on the screen for us? Or is it a 3-page?
It's actually, I want to say 6. Hang on, I'm scrolling through it right now. Correction, 7 pages. So
okay,
it's not really a one screen kind of share, but everyone did get that as part of the material for the meeting. So that went out last week. So all of you do have a copy of the full material. One thing I'd probably highlight on it, and I know that many of our existing committee members already know this, but especially for any of our new ones as well, there are some great links in there as well on some things that we've talked about, like, for example, the permitting map that, Amy has shared in the past. So it is sort of a nice culmination of a lot of the efforts that have gone on both by the district and by the steering committee over the last few years are provided in that memo. Okay. Not seeing any other question on this one, though. The next one is very much a piece of good news coming up. We're still figuring out exactly what all this good news means. But at the end of the last meeting, I was asked a question by the committee as like, hey, how's the state budget looking? Since that time, I said, well, at the moment, everything looks like it's going good. And it did finish going good in the sense that they were keeping everything at least at the level it's been the last couple of years. The one sort of additional piece in there, though, is there is some additional, at least at the moment, I'm assuming it's just one-time funding in the state budget. And pursuant to the last consultation group meeting at the state, this is basically the state working on their blueprint, talking with the different committees and representatives as part of the consultation group meeting, they've talked about making that additional one-time funding available for any remaining programs to get toward a CERP. So specifically, that means that there may until I actually get it in hand, I always take it with a grain of salt, but the indication is that that should be resources to help us make that transition toward a CERP on the district end. This is still very early and preliminary information. Most likely, we would probably not be actually seeing said resources until about a year from now. But what the practical implications of this means is, and as we've shared before, when we've talked a little bit about CERP, and this is actually a great segue into both the CERP discussion that Janice is going to go over in a moment, and then to the subcommittee that Vincent's lead on for CERP, is we originally were talking about being probably still about another year and a half out on going toward a CERP, just getting those resources, finishing up the work with Fernbacon Middle School, the lab there. What this potentially means is that it accelerates these timeframes. Assuming that we are able to get these resources earlier, means that we'd be having the resources on our end to be pushing forward. Obviously, we'd still be, this means then an uptick in terms of the steering committee's work as well, because just like when we went through the camp, it was really that all hands on deck. So really, this is, I think, a great piece that this group was already talking about doing all of the work on having a CERP subcommittee, understanding what that means, what the workload is, what the next steps are. And so Vincent, more as a heads up to you, but also to all the committee members, is that we will definitely be participating in your different subcommittee meetings, keeping you apprised of the latest information as we get it as well. This is basically fairly hot off the press. This was new even since the last time we met. And I shared some information on the budget then. So we'll be working with the subcommittee just to be figuring out what do the timelines look like. But I would say it's probably better than average that for the next nomination cycle, provided those resources are coming, that we'd be putting forward sooner than we previously had thought about. I'll pause there. I have another update also from the consultation group meeting, but I'll pause there in case there's any questions. Okay. So one other thing that's coming up, and this is really more just for information for the steering committee members, but also then is good information for our members of the public on as well. One of the other things that CARB is, the state Air Resources Board, but California Air Resources Board, CARB, is working on as part of their updates to the program is how to try and help bring all of the additional communities that have been getting nominated statewide into the program. Understanding that the program funding, the resources have stayed flat since the inception of the program, they are going to probably be steering a little bit more of their community grants to help local communities go toward local solutions. So that's something that they're going to be doing a small pivot toward, to try and get more communities eligible for different things. They may not be like a full-blown normal camp or CERP with all the resources that happens like with this committee, but they're trying to find a way to move with their community grants toward community applications to push forward on those local solutions. So that's something that we're going to be keeping an eye on, and certainly because we've continued to nominate additional communities beyond South Sac Florin for the last several years, it's something we'll be talking with those different groups on and encouraging them to go ahead and consider those opportunities as the program guidelines open up. Any questions for me?
That's a lot of information, Mark.
And the good news is we're going to be on this call for quite a bit of time still. So if anyone is digesting, I'll be around still at the end of the meeting. So if there's questions that we want to take down the road, we can definitely go there.
Well, it sounds like good news, though. There's a chance we can get some money.
Right. So I think the overall message, and I saw a couple of hands pop up, I think that is really the net message here is, I wish it was probably more than just one time, but certainly if, what the state is talking about in terms of the additional funding this year, and with us being unofficially sort of being targeted with that, is going to be a perfect opportunity for us to go ahead and get this jump started in a faster timeline.
I think
Vincent, would you
that's
like me to
good
take the
news.
hand, or sorry, go ahead, Jesus.
No, I just think that these are good news compared to last time when we were talking about it. So thank you.
Vincent, would you like me to go ahead and go with the order of the hands, or?
Sure, I think Barry was first.
Correct. Yeah, so Barry, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening there, Mark. I just have a question it was your first topic in regards to applications still being accepted. Sometimes I hear a little slow, so my apologies for coming in a little slow on this.
No problem.
The still accepting applications, and that would be for applications to join the steering committee?
Correct.
Through the end of-
I'll expand upon that, Barry. Thank you for your question. So we've had a couple community organization applications in waiting, and those remain. Because of what we've been waiting on is additional residential applicants to make sure that we still maintain the greater than 50% resident requirement of both the overall state program and then the charter for the committee. So we have 2 existing applications on file for community organizations. We reopened it. Well, we've had it open now the last few months for residents. And so we are still very much encouraging residential applicants to be applying.
Thank you for straightening that part out. The to that, what I'm looking at the list here in regards to the membership for the steering committee, unless, I don't know everybody, this committee, as well as I do others, has there been individuals that have that are listed on the website that are no longer members of the steering committee? Because the number I'm counting is a total of 11 members, and 6 of those being resident and 5 being
community and or other organizations. You are correct. So that list is current. So at the exact makeup right now, we are meeting all of the program guidelines. We couldn't just add a community or other representative group at the moment, because that takes us to exactly 50-50, and the program requirements are greater than 50.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because as what I read and was also told, that as long as there were at least more than 50% at that point, organization outside of a resident could come into the into the steering committee, making it equal at 50-50. But as long as at the time of acceptance that the resident number is greater than 50% of the total. So what you're saying is different from what I thought I read and what I thought I was told. So
yeah, no, it's supposed to be that we need to be above the 50% of the actual membership at any time. And that goes back to the inception of the program at the state level, because they wanted to make sure that residents were the biggest voice in steering committees statewide.
Oh, no, I'm with you on that. I totally interpreted what I was reading. So thank you for clearing that up.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Mark.
Vincent.
Yes, you said that we would receive the SAC EJ response. Was it in this email for this meeting, or was it in last week's? Because it's not included in this one.
So it was sent out in the original notification for tonight's meeting, which was, I believe, Thursday's email.
Okay.
So the one we just sent today, Vincent, was just that, hey, everyone, reminder, here's the link. But the original email, which included the agenda and everything else on, I believe, staff, I'm gonna have my staff correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we sent it out Wednesday or Thursday, included the SAC EJC memo.
Okay.
I believe that we
Thank you.
sent that out on the 14th, Friday the 14th.
But actually maybe even longer. So it's earlier than I was thinking.
All right, thank you.
I'll confirm we'll pull up the actual time of the day of the email, and I'll put it in the chat for you, Vincent.
Well, just for everybody else, in case they want to look at it and have a chance to read it, actually look at it. Thank you.
Great questions all around though. If there's no other questions, that takes us through the district updates.
Okay, and then now we're going to be moving into the planning activity, which is a SERP. And Janice is going to provide us with a brief presentation.
Yes. So I believe the last meeting that you guys had in June, there was a discussion with a report out from the SERP subcommittee in terms of what we had shared with the subcommittee in terms of, you know, what does it take? What are some of the major milestones in a development of a SERP? Like how, you know, what are all the different elements? And so I'm going to be going through the slides that we shared with the subcommittee. And if there are any questions, you can feel free to stop me in the middle, or I'll take them at the end as well. So next slide, please. All right, so the first question that the subcommittee posed to us was, what are the different elements that are, you know, that we need to do for the SERP? And a list, we provided a non-comprehensive list. So this is not everything that goes into a SERP. These are elements that we think is going to take a significant prep time from the district as well as the steering committee members in decision making, in understanding the materials. And so you see a couple of colors on there, yellow and orange. The good news is that we are not starting from scratch. A lot of the work that the steering committee has done over the years we've already done some of that work, right? We, you know, talked a lot about what the, you know, the concerns were of the committee. We know what some of the main sources, the stationary sources that are in and around the community. We talked a little bit about what are some of the pollutants that you may be concerned about. And as part of that early on, the district has also worked on some emission inventory data for the community, and as well as we've had discussions with the committee about, you know, any enforcement programs that we've had. The steering committee has had conversations with our incentive team in terms of the different strategies or how to prioritize the money, the incentive money that we had. And so a lot of these discussions have already started, but again, you can see from this particular list, there is, you know, quite a few things I think we need to consider as we're moving towards the SERP. Anything you want to add, Vincent? I know that you have started reading, I think, the old blueprint. Anything that you wanted to add in particular on this slide?
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So the next slide is going to be like what, so we have all these elements that, you know, we need to work through. And so what are the specific like months that could, you know, that would play out? You know, from when we are designated as a SERP community, we have 2 years, and we call it 21 to 24 months, is because there's, you know, depending on what time our board meets, there's certain months that our boards don't meet. We might have to accelerate that just a couple of months. But you could see here on from SERP, so that's the orange. From that designation, we have a few things. So we need to have all decisions from the CSE, you know, pretty early on. So as we're talking about different topics, we need to start making some of those decisions, you know, between months 1 and 6. When we have those decisions, then the district and the steering committee starts drafting parts of the community, the plan. And then in months 10 and 11, the steering committee would approve a draft cert of the plan. And then the district also needs to open the plan up for a 30-day public comment period. As we're getting comments in from the SERP, you know, part of the process is to understand and synthesize the comments that were provided and make any changes, you know, resulting from those comments. And then if there are any programs that we're implementing, we also need potentially to do a CEQA review. And CEQA review is basically, it's called the California Environmental Quality Act. And basically what it is that when an agency takes on a project, they need to evaluate and disclose whether or not there are environmental impacts of our project, so that, you know, the board of that our board and the public understands if there's water impacts, if there's air quality impacts, you know, things like that. And that takes a few months to do. And then once we get that information, the steering committee would then approve a final SERP. And then we still have to go through a 45-day CEQA public comment period. So again, once you disclose all of that information, the public has an opportunity to comment on that for our consideration. And then again, if there are any additional things that we need to change, we'll need to do that. And then finally, we'll be bringing our final SERP to the district board for approval. And then right up against the time of the 24 months is when we would be sending our SERP to the CAR board for approval. And so that's a lot of information, but the key takeaway is that there are, because of public process, because we want to make sure that we're transparent, because we want to be responsive, it takes time to do that. And so we, as we're preparing to go into a SERP, I think we need to understand and be ready for thinking about how we're going to make some of these decisions on some of these topics, I don't want to say quickly, but we don't have a lot of time to do that, even though 2 years sounds like a lot of time. With that, I'm going to pause right there and see if there are any questions that people might have, any clarifications that you might need.
Looks like Vincent has a hand up.
Yep, I do. And is this the revised timeline that we talked about, or are we still on a 2-year timeline? And that's the first question. The second question is, when it says all decisions from the CSC, could you highlight what those decisions? I just like to maybe have the steering committee talk about them now, or get an idea of what kind of decisions we're going to be making within the next 8 months or so, or whenever we get started on this.
Yeah. So the timeline, so all of these different tasks are not dependent on, it doesn't change depending on if we start now or if we start later. Like, all of these things have to happen once we get designated. So we specifically didn't put in any particular months and just timeframes on when these things need to be completed. So they could be shifted depending on when we're designated. And the second question, remind me, what was that again?
In months 1 to 6, all decisions from the steering committee.
Okay, so Cece, if you can go back to the last slide. So there are the different elements that go into a SERP. And so the most, I'll say, a big part of it is going to be identifying what our emission reduction strategies might be. And that could come from, land use, transportation, enforcement. And so any ideas or any things that we end up wanting to put into the SERP all has to be made within that earlier time frame, so that again we can put that, write that into the SERP. Metrics to track progress. So there's going to be discussions. If you guys think about when we were working on the community air monitoring plan, we had to make decisions like, what was our goal? How do we track progress on, air quality? Like, how do we do that? So any of those ideas or any of those different type of metrics that we come up with as part of this plan needs to also be part of it. So all of these things that we have listed are, potential items that we're going to need to discuss. Well, not potential items, items that we will need to discuss. And if there's any action points from the steering committee, they need to be made within that time period.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Janice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if we go back to the next slide, Cece. Any other questions that folks have?
Okay, I had one more.
Yeah.
Where does the phase 3 monitoring data come into play in here? I mean, it would be great if we had it when we don't, and I think we're not going to get any until early next year.
Yep. So that's actually a really good segue for my next slide.
Okay, great.
All right, so big picture timeline. Where we started, you guys have seen multiple iterations of this particular timeline. We started in 2019, 2023. So now is when we're starting phase 3 monitoring. So as we're collecting the data, we're going to be doing a detailed analysis on the data that we're collecting. We've done some analysis already on phase 1 and phase 2, and you guys have seen some of that information already posted on the website. We brought it to the phase 3. What did we call it? The phase 3 event that we had at Firm Bacon. That doesn't necessarily, we can still start some of the work while we're doing the analysis. And the reason is because, if we're going to be talking about the different categories of emission reduction strategies, like let's just say land use, you may have some general ideas on what the strategies might be of interest to the community, but then later on, we can also use the air quality analysis to try to figure out, maybe we want to target a specific strategy because, this pollutant might be of interest. So we can, and that's why we have here, it says refine strategies to target the emissions. So there's things that we can kind of broad stroke talk about in terms of strategies. And then as we're crunching through the numbers, then we'll have more information like, hey, this, type of, you might want to focus on, this type of category of sources because that's what we see is potentially going to be more impactful. Then we can refine those as we go along. But there's going to be a lot of learning, right? And understanding the scope of the land, like what are the different options of the different strategies? And we could be doing that as we're collecting data, right? So does that answer your question, Vincent?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. That is the last of my slides. And so, we just wanted to share, as Mark is talking about, like, when do we move to a SERP community? When do we start the work? It sounds like if we're going to be accelerating that time frame, the steering committee already had an indication that we should be starting now from the visioning meeting. And so exactly when that is could be, I think, would best serve us if we came up with a more refined, like more detailed plan on like how we're going to meet each of those milestones. So, and then work backwards and, you know, make sure that we're able to hit that deadline, that 2-year deadline. Anything else, I think, from the SERP subcommittee or the district, any division managers or anything that might want to add to what I just said?
No, just that we're going to be trying to look at a date to have our regular steering committee or SERP committee meeting, and my best day would be the third Thursday of the month. And so there's a lot of different days, and we're all going to have to kind of coordinate. And I don't know how the air district, if that works for anybody there, for you guys, if I'm not good at it, but maybe Sarah, you could send out a what are they, a doodle poll or something like that, and we could all kind of pick days which are the best. Seeing as how there's so many different people who are going to be attending our meeting, not only just the steering committee members, but the CARB staff or possibly CARB staff and definitely the air district staff. So my day is third Thursday.
Yeah, definitely we could send out a couple of options or a few options, not a couple is 2. And we'll make sure that the third Thursday is one of them.
Great.
One of the things.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just one other thing I wanted to mention is CARB is in the process of revising its blueprint. So what they're calling Blueprint 2.0. As we're going through the SERP process, it would be good for, you know, us to also take a look at what are some of the, you know, requirements and changes that might be coming so that we can anticipate that, you know, down the line.
You know, one thing, sorry, Janice, one thing in terms of even the Blueprint 2.0 is in addition just to the community camp and SERP amendments that there were, or not amendments, just the updates that they're doing to the blueprint. There are some also updates and opportunities on incentives that are different than have been with the program historically. And when we do get to new business at the end, we actually have CARB here who can talk about just, you know, high level some of those updates as well. We were planning on doing that under new business just to get the, you know, the just sort of food for thought, really, in terms of some of those opportunities. So you're going back to that question you asked earlier to Janice, Vincent, about just like, well, what are some of the ideas? You know, just knowing that there may be some additional opportunities in incentives that did not previously exist. Maybe the type of ideas, that's certainly not the end all and be all, but just, you know, an opening for creative thinking.
And Adriana is here and during, I think, new business, she'll probably share just a little bit on the incentive changes when we transition. So
I just want to chime in because I think Jesus wanted to come off mute, and just checking in with Jesus if you wanted to add anything.
Oh, no. Actually, no. I wait. Thank you.
So is the next step, Vincent, for the steering committee to, or the subcommittee, the SERP subcommittee to meet and to maybe explore what a timeline might look like with specifics on topics, deliverables, so that we can work backwards and when we think we could be, the steering committee, you know, could look at when it could be designated.
That's exactly what I was waiting for. So thank you, Janice.
And so the designation process, that was on the other slide. And so the SERP subcommittee would come up with a motion for the steering committee to vote on. And prior to that, we would have emissions reductions plans or items in that proposal as well. Or can they go separately?
So the first step is for the steering committee to decide to make a recommendation to move to a SERP designated community. There is a two-part process, and I think we shared a little bit about this. We have to work hand in hand with our district in determining that timeline so that we can make sure that we have the resources available in the timing that we want, so that so that we can support the steering committee in ensuring that, we submit it in time. And so, so that's the first step, is to, let's talk about what everything needs to be done, map out the timelines on when we could agree on, and then we find out what the designation timeline we could recommend to CARB. And Femi, you're online, and Adriana and is as well. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit about what your process in terms of the state designation timelines and for the steering committee's consideration as we're thinking about this.
Well, Janice, maybe before we jump there, I want to maybe not change, but just maybe clarify a little bit, Vincent, to your question. The prep work and the starting work and figuring out timelines and even thinking of ideas can start yesterday. There is no designation necessary. There is no, those efforts can start today. Mm-hmm. In fact, the fact that this committee has already formed a subcommittee on this is already steps working on this, is, figuring out, okay, what are the steps, what are the timelines? What we mean just in terms of when the formal designation, when we start that official 2-year clock, that will be then when there is both the yes from the steering committee and the yes from the district. And we'll work in hand on that one, so that, we're saying, yes, we're now hearing we're going to have the resources from the state to do this. The committee is saying, yes, we're ready to make the time commitment, because for those that have been around since the beginning and remember going through all of the meetings for the camp, I'm sure you will recollect that, not only were we meeting pretty intensely every month, but in some cases we even did some extra meetings that happened. So it's really knowing that so figuring out those type of commitments, even from the steering committee, is, I think, a perfect task already, starting today with the subcommittee. Is sort of outlining, as Jan said earlier, it's working that backwards of saying, okay, if we are going to request in this upcoming year to be designated, and and the district has the resources, et cetera, is the committee ready to make those steps? You don't have to go back a slide, CC, but as it was on that slide 8 of that 2-year clock, you're not to finish in 2 years. There's only about a 6-month window. But if you're starting now on some of those ideas and the brainstorming, you can go minus months working on ideas, so that when we do ask for those final decisions from the steering committee, we know that remaining 6 months or so on the timeline is sufficient. So it's not that the formal designation needs to happen first. It's just that the formal designation is what officially will start the 2-year clock. And that's both a request by the committee, an agreement by the district, a submittal to CARB, and then CARB will make that designation at a future meeting. Typically that has happened around the start of the year. Given that we don't see the resources until about 6 months after that, when exactly that start date would have to happen, I think, is something we're still discussing with CARB. But really the first step is just the subcommittee work that you're already doing. It's figuring out, what does that commitment look like for the steering committee members themselves? Is it going to be, do we go back to just full monthly meetings instead of the quarterly district-led ones? Do we need more than a monthly meeting? Is it the subcommittee meeting, halfway through and coming with decision points for the committee in monthly meetings? I'm not saying that's the answer, but I'm just saying those are the type of questions that you absolutely should be asking now, thinking about in the subcommittee, even before we make any formal designation request. Does that help answer your question, Vincent?
Yes.
Femi, did you have anything to add from what Mark just said? Or it sounds all good?
Nothing to add on my end.
Okay. All right, that is the end of my presentation, and I think it sounds like the action item is one, to find out when the subcommittee, the SERP subcommittee is going to meet, and then they're going to dig in a little bit deeper in terms of what a timeline might look like. Just as a quick question or as a poll, are there any steering committee members here now that are interested in being a part of this SERP subcommittee?
Just to be clear, we already have me, Jesus, Richard, and I think Barry, did you join the committee or the subcommittee last time we met?
Yes, I don't know if you can see my thumbs up. Yes.
Okay, so we have 4 already, and then it would be nice to have as many as we could, of course, so.
Yeah, but I still need to know the level of commitment in terms of how often we're going to be meeting, because I belong to other committees and also I have my private practice. So I don't want to make a commitment now and say yes, and then at the end not be available for those meetings. So that is going to be very important for me to know the intensity of those meetings and how often they're going to be.
Great. Were there any other steering committee members who wanted to be a part of the email chain, or we're going to be sending out to everybody anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
I don't want to commit right away, but I'm interested. So feel to loop me in on the email chain.
Great, thanks, Chase.
Yes, thanks, Chase. And in the chat, I listed some of the SERP items that people in the community have talked to me about. And most recently is there was an apartment complex right by where we had our clean air event. And they said, well, we can't get EVs, electric vehicles, because we don't have a charging station here anywhere to plug in, like if it was at your house. So I told them that was sometimes there are charging stations or possibilities like that. And then, of course, I told them join the committee and maybe we could talk together on how to get it going. But I don't think they joined the committee yet, or I don't think they filled the application out, but I'm trying. But that was one of the latest, the last request from a community member on how we can get to electric vehicles into the apartment complexes around there.
I am going to kind of segue us because I'm on the next topic anyway, but it's related. So we've started having some discussions with Valley Vision and their partners, who I don't know how much you all recall, but Valley Vision and its partners had received a community air grant. And they started a project called SNAC. And they have a steering committee that they've been working with in the Oak Park area as well as the North Sacramento area. And they had collected some air quality information. They're moving on to trying to look at what a local SERP would look like for those communities and discussing strategies. And Adrian, you can jump in at any time because you and I have been having this conversation. And it sounds like there might be some interest from that particular group and maybe with their steering committee to work with our steering committee to learn from each other, maybe that there are areas where we could advocate on certain topics together. So for example, if we wanted to, suggest a change at the city planning level, or maybe work with the Sacramento Tree Foundation, or, approach some other, public entity, it may be beneficial for the community members to leverage each other's kind of thoughts and wants and advocate together. And so I wanted to gauge whether or not, and what I had shared back with Adrian and their partners was that I would come back to the steering committee and ask if there are any interest from this steering committee to work with their steering committee, either maybe to learn from, what they've done already, where we can align some efforts together, and whatever, you guys might come up with. Adrian, did you want to add in anything from what I just said?
No, I think you nailed it, Janice. Yeah, interested in, adding some more structure to potentially collaborating.
So I'll open that up to steering committee members to discuss.
I guess first question would be, Adrian, when is your guys' regular meeting? When do you guys meet?
Great question. So we don't have a set regular meeting, although we have monthly meetings, but people's schedules change, especially in the summer. So our steering committee is made up of 9 folks. I think actually 6 are from North Sac, 5 are from Oak Park, all residents, and who we have been working with on air monitoring for, as you know, more than 2 years. And more recently, we've connected to the Air District to try to put our heads together around some of the more technical, like emission reduction, kind of strategizing that I know our community members want to do, and that we just don't have the technical capacity to really do as just as a nonprofit. We like to say we're good at engaging folks, but we're not engineers and stuff. So yeah, we need the engineers. So thus, I think that's kind of how some of this potential collaboration was born. And sorry, I'm just totally, just talking, but we see a lot of potential in working with you guys. You guys have been doing this for a long time and want to, I've been coming to these meetings for a long time. I've learned a lot that I think has informed our process, and want to just continue to build those partnerships.
And we appreciate you coming to our meetings, Adrian.
So, I mean, what a potential a potential first step it could look like, if you guys are interested, or us just all, the Air District setting up a meeting, and our steering committee and those of you who are interested all attend, and we have a set agenda, and we kind of talk about what we're each doing and take it from there, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Janice, does that sound okay?
I'm going to throw it back to the steering committee. So any thoughts? Vincent, you lead the discussion.
I think it's a great idea. It's an opportunity for us to meet with the other community members, people who are doing what we're talking about doing already, and for us to collaborate and work together, because as we all know, the boundaries of our steering committee limit us on what we can do on the other side of the road of some of these major corridors. And so Oak Park community is one that is definitely on the other side of our boundary, and also Northgate, which is a very deserving community for when we talk about EJ, and also the resources not going into those communities like they have in other communities. And so very similar to our community as well. So I think it's a great idea. It's an opportunity for us to work, and I really like what Valley Vision does. I've been following you, Adrian, your committee and group just from the emails and from your website and everything. And I have attended a couple of your early meetings a long time ago. I haven't been able to attend any, but I look forward to attending one soon.
Any other thoughts from steering committee members? Chris, Rhonda, Bill, Chase, Jesus?
Actually, I agree with Vince. I think it would be important to kind of join this group and to see how much we can learn from each other and join forces for a common, goal.
And Adrian, do you feed us if we go?
Depends. We'll see. We'll see how many of you guys there are.
I heard you have good food at your guys' meetings sometimes.
We do, yeah. And that's actually another of our projects called the Cleaner Air Partnership that the Air District also participates in. Yeah, we have quarterly luncheons and we feed, those are public events. We feed folks, try to simplify a complex air quality topic. Yeah.
Great.
All right, if there isn't any objections, then we'll go ahead and Adrian, you and I can maybe work on some logistics. Maybe throw out maybe potential agenda topic items for both our steering committee to consider. And we'll start that conversation. How does that sound for everyone?
Sounds good.
Okay.
That's good.
And in one of the topics Mark talked about, or maybe you did, Janice, you talked about maybe if we moved away from the quarterly steering committee meetings, and maybe if we needed to move back to monthly steering committee, that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, I had brought that one up, Vincent, just
Yes.
as, as when we get into that 2-year time frame of the SERP, and Vincent, I know that most of the people on this call, but you were one of them. When we were in the camp, you remember we were having full on, long meetings each time because we're working through things, sharing information, making decisions. I don't think that once we actually get into that 2-year clock, I don't think the quarterly will probably be sufficient in that regard. And I'm thinking it's probably a minimum of monthly. It's basically, it's the camp ramped up a notch is really what a SERP is. So that's one of the reasons why we've been so, in years past, when we've talked about going to a SERP, we've been very much on the piece about talking about getting the resources from the state to be able to make that commitment as well. So yes, I was the one that mentioned, and that's the reason why, is just to actually get through all those decision-making processes, to be able to bring information back to this full group, sharing information. We definitely do think it'll need to be much more frequently than monthly community engagement and then just quarterly full district. It's probably more like at least monthly full meetings.
So if you think about it, in the camp, we had one topic, right, which was monitoring. In the SERP, we potentially have, like I said, land use enforcement, transportation, others that I'm not even thinking of right now, incentives. And so again, when Mark says it's going to be up a notch, it's several notches probably. Just be prepared for that.
And the good thing is we'll have a subcommittee that we could talk about some of those items in the mid-month as well. So great.
Okay.
Anything else from the steering committee? Anybody? Okay. I'm going to go back to the agenda, and I think we're really ahead of time right now, guys. We're doing pretty good.
So maybe if you don't mind, Vincent, I'll key up just the new business a little bit for a moment, because we do have CARB here. I think Adriana was going to just share a little bit about some of the opportunities coming up in Blueprint 2.0 as it relates to some of the incentives, just to get those brain juices flowing, if you will, on ideas as we do start moving toward, start thinking about a SERP.
Mark, I wanted to ask, would I be able to share just one slide so I can show all the projects that or the updates that we're making in our guidelines? I don't know if I have access now. Did you mention that, Janice? I could.
Sarah, why don't you go ahead and give Adriana that capability?
Okay, I've been given it. Thank you.
And Adriana, could you remind us your position with CARB?
So my position with CARB is I'm an air pollution specialist under the Office of Community Air Protection with under Femi, who's also here. And I'm one of the staff under the Community Air Protection Incentives team. So hold on, I was trying to just get it one slide view. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that, people. Oh, okay, I'm just gonna leave it like that. I hope that answers your question there. So I wanted to, this is a presentation that we presented at the workshops the last 2 weeks. Jennifer ended up sharing a link to the workshop recording, so hopefully you'll be able to take a look at that and learn some more from what we shared. But basically, we've updated certain chapters in our guidelines and the community air protection incentive guidelines, and the chapters that we've made updates to have been the hexavalent chrome plating facilities. And so there was the hexavalent chrome ATCM went to the board in May, and they're transitioning over to trivalent chrome. And so that's what the funding will go towards now. I don't think that there's probably many hexavalent chrome plating facilities within Sacramento, but I could be wrong. But anyways, so that's one of them. The next one is that we updated the chapter to reducing air pollution in schools to not just only fund projects for schools, but we're also looking at expanding the scope so that it's more broad, so that encompasses like all sensitive directors and not just schools. So it could be providing funding for local community centers, hospitals, and assisting living homes. And some of those projects under that chapter include things like air filtration. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, that's one of the big ones. And then another change that we've made is to the community identified and stationary source projects. Before that was just one whole chapter. And so we ended up dividing that chapter into 2 separate ones to help differentiate between the two. And so the community identified projects now, those are for selected communities, and then the stationary source, anyone that receives CAPS funding can do those projects. And then moving on to the new chapters. And so we've the air districts that have been selected, they created many community identified and stationary source project plans for their selected communities. And so what we did is that we ended up creating those project plans into chapters. And so now they're able to be used statewide. So these chapters, I'll go ahead and go through them. So like agency partnerships, I mean, that will allow for money to be able to go to or support partnership opportunities with federal, state, and other local agencies. The other one is vegetative barriers and urban greening. That chapter will allow funding for like tree planting and that sort of thing. And then the next one is the emergency diesel generator replacement. That is a stationary source project, but now everybody can go ahead and take advantage of that. And then the other 2 is the paving sidewalk and bike path projects, as well as dial-a-ride vehicle replacement projects. And so now these chapters will be additional projects that can be funded statewide by all air districts. And so that's definitely a plus. Yeah, and if you have any questions, we can go ahead and open it up. I'm gonna go ahead and, yeah.
Are there
Oh,
any
sure.
questions from the committee members? Are there any other communities that are doing some of these projects already, or were these barriers for allowing some of the communities to do these projects?
Yeah, and so that's a good question. And so yeah, there was barriers to doing these types of projects, like under the new chapters.
Yes.
those chapters were only for selected communities. But like I mentioned, now, we're including them for everybody in the state, for all the air districts and communities to be able to consider these types of projects as another eligible project type. So we've removed that barrier.
When you say communities, that's the AB 617 communities or any air district and community in the state of California?
AB 617 communities would be able to take advantage of these. I mean, but you'd have to work with your air district, because there's, I mean, once these guidelines are out, that's something that the air district would need to consider as far as funding. And then they have a lot of their internal processes that they need to put together in order to be able to do projects like this. It can take some time, like to do a lot of that administrative stuff to get projects like these in a solicitation and that sort of thing. So
Thank you.
What are some of the agency partnerships I'm looking at here?
what was your question?
The agency partnerships, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I have my boss here, Femi, that's very much more familiar than I am on this one, and he can speak to it a little bit better. I mean, these agency partnerships, I'll just say a little bit more, is like I mentioned, it allows money to be able to, for like state agency, like a federal agency to work with like another local agency on projects that cannot be, something that's not under the jurisdiction of the air district or CARB. So requirements outside of those two entities. I know one of the recent project types, like an example would be like a truck study project. And so they looked at what is it, the truck traffic in a community. And so that would be an example of a particular project that would be able to be funded. But Femi, if you don't mind, would you mind speaking a little bit more to that?
Yeah, so I would say there's not that much to add to that. It's really just creating an opportunity for some partnerships wherever they can be made. Again, it could be with a local agency, with the federal agency, or another state agency. Like Adriana said, it's really trying to create opportunities where there are other entities that have jurisdiction where we don't, or where the air district doesn't. So we would look for areas where we can partner with them. And that could be through the use of this chapter. The example Adriana brought up is a good one. It's that truck reroute study where in San Joaquin Valley, they worked with the city of Fresno to come up with how to route trucks through a certain community, the South Central Fresno community. And it was a way to just get that cooperation and that synergies within those two agencies to work together to create that. So we're looking to create ways for that to happen across the state as opposed to just in selected communities. Go ahead, Janice.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Janice. Sorry.
There's so many opportunities and grants and money that's out there right now from different various federal agencies or state agencies or even local agencies, right? And SACOG might have some programs that we might want to tap in on. The city might have some programs that they're working on in terms of their climate implementation plans. So I think my understanding is that, it's for us to understand what some of these agencies have to offer so that it still achieves some of the objectives that we have, but through those programs that we don't have direct jurisdiction over. Sorry, Jesus, go ahead.
Yeah, my question was about the incentive strategies. You mentioned that there are some projects going on in other counties. Is there anything specific in Sacramento County that is working on these strategies? Because I believe that's what I would like to hear. What's going on here in Sacramento? especially South area.
Rafe, do you know of any potential opportunities there with the county in terms of land use?
I'd have to dig into it. I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
We
because
we
all
can definitely
this,
find out.
yeah, that will be appreciated because all this looks very interesting and it's very, very good. But I mean, I would like to see exactly what's going on here in Sacramento. Thank you.
How about private agencies?
What was that, Chris?
How about private agencies as agency partnerships?
I'm not sure that they are not eligible now, but I may need to, maybe if you can give me an example of a private agency you're talking about.
Well, I actually just got a email from a board of director and National Night Out. They sent me an email and said they would like to partnership at some of the National Night Out and bring some of their medical materials such as a trifold about what they offer in their health coverage by allergies, locations, if you want a mental health, if you want high blood pressure, if you got allergies, things of that nature, and then partner with you all there. That's what she sent me. Her name is Brenda. And she's going to connect with me tomorrow at the board of directors meeting and find out more how can they collaborate with either CARB or us here, SAC Metro Air Quality.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think there probably is some opportunity there. I would say if you can, whatever you hear back, if you can contact Adriana, I think her contact info.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Yeah.
Yeah, and let her know because it may just be a matter of, and you know, obviously working with the air district, it may be a matter of what they're looking for in a sense in terms of the partnership and where we can provide that support.
Yeah.
It's hard. Since I'm not familiar with them, I'm not sure where the partnership opportunities would be, but maybe if we got a little bit more familiar with what they're doing and what they're looking for, we can understand where we can play a role.
Sure.
Thanks, Adriana, for putting this slide up for us. That gives us an idea of some of the things that we can think about doing. And one of my projects or suggestions from a community member was the school air filtration issues that some of the older schools in South Sacramento have. And maybe we can address some of those through our SERP as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And again, Jennifer Magana ended up sharing the workshops and to the workshop meeting that's been recorded, and you can take a look at that and also take an opportunity to learn more about not just the blueprint, but the incentive stuff. So thank you.
Any other questions from the committee members or anybody from the public or Air District? Okay. I've lost my agenda. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Okay, does anybody else have something they want to update? Mark, was there anybody else who was going to speak?
Vince, I would say just open it up more broadly. I just knew that CARB had shared with us just late last week about some of the updates, and so I knew that we were going to flag them for this.
Great.
But I'd say just go ahead and open it up to any other new business.
Okay, so we're going to the new business and upcoming meetings. Does anybody have any new business, anything they want to talk about, community calendar dates or anything like that? How about you, Adrian? When's your next meeting?
Next meeting for what?
Valley Vision.
The Valley Vision? I mean, We don't just have meetings.
Well, what do you have?
Whole bunch of projects. I can send you guys more info.
Okay, I was just curious. We were looking to add things to our calendar and I know sometimes you have things coming up that you add to our calendar. I thought maybe you had one coming up.
Actually, I do. Thanks for reminding me. Actually, this Thursday, sorry, I'm playing with my dog while I'm listening to this meeting. This Thursday, we're having a conversation from 3 to 5 p.m. And it's part of the Community Economic Resilience Fund. So this is a $600 million statewide program to advance basically green jobs and inclusive economic development across the region. And so we're going to actually have some folks from, I think, around the region or around the state to talk about what potential projects could look like. And so, you know, it's not like a directly an air quality project, but it is, you know, about improving people's quality of life and ensuring that people have better jobs and trying to support some of those more workforce oriented programs. So again, that's this Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m. And I'll find the link and I'll put it in the chat in about a minute. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. It's via Zoom, so it's like webinar style.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's see. We have our next upcoming community engagement meetings, August 28th and September 25th. Our next steering committee quarterly meeting will be October 23rd. Sometime in the near future, we're going to come out with an email to figure out what day the third subcommittee meeting could be meeting. Hopefully it's the third Thursday. And do we have any ideas we want to have for the next meeting topics, the community engagement meeting or the steering committee meeting?
Vincent, I just want to chime in. It looks like we've got some hands raised, one from
Oh.
Femi and one from Barry. So I don't know if we want to take those maybe before jumping into the rest of the stuff that you were mentioning.
Sure. I just
Okay.
don't have my full screen up, so I don't get to see everybody.
No worries.
Barry.
That's why I'm helping you out.
Thank you. Barry, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Cece. I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but it sounded like this is you're about to start wrapping up. I just want to ask, actually segues into what you were just discussing, further outreach meeting or outreach membership and meetings. To that, I just wanted to ask, what is the outreach for community engagement that you guys are doing? Each level of departments or agencies that are here in this meeting tonight, in regards to even this meeting. I know somewhere on someone's email list, I didn't receive any kind of notification of the list, but I keep up on these meetings, so I knew to show up to that. Just putting a finer point on it, where are the community engagement notifications going out to from both the steering committee, CARB, SMAQMD? How are you guys notifying the public to show up? Again, no one can force anybody to becoming a member or applying to becoming a part of the steering committee, so forth, so on. But if the word is not getting out there in a robust manner to let folks know this is available, it seems that we are just stepping through another month and another month and another month of hoping, waiting for someone to apply. And yet I'm being long-winded, so I'll stop. But where's the engagement taking place? So the where it's a robust engagement and notification for alerts for these types of meetings.
Great question, Barry.
So I can share what we have done in the past and what we're currently doing. So, you know, your point is well taken in terms of, you know, wanting to get this information out to the community. So one, you know, we are hoping that all of our steering committee members here are sharing it with their respective, you know, friends and families and community members that, you know, they know that might want to participate. We do post this information on our website as well as, like you mentioned, send out an email to people, who are in our email list who signed up to know more about this program. But how, in the past, we've also had, I believe, like some steering committee members, and maybe it was even the Sacramento Tree Foundation has helped us pass out flyers, I think, door to door, and also like had actually talked to resident members as well. And I think that happened a few earlier on as well. And so those are, we've tried different avenues. And so, definitely, I think the subgroup, the outreach subcommittee had been talking a lot about what are different ways, and maybe Rhonda and Vincent, you might want to chime in terms of like how that discussion has, what you guys have talked about in those discussions in terms of increasing the outreach and how we can get this information out. Rhonda, you're on mute.
Okay. We also have the meetings listed on our website, saccleanair.com.
And I know that just from what I heard from the subcommittees, it sounds like there has been information that's been passed out at maybe like community events. I know Vincent goes out to a lot of community events and shares flyers about our group and, potentially when the meetings are. And so, I think we're always welcoming new ideas. So if you have any, we're happy to take them.
I appreciate. Oh, I'm sorry. Looks like Mark is about to chime in. I'll wait for Mark to go ahead.
Please go ahead, Barry.
Thank you, Cece. With that, that's almost siloed in the manner that it's going. I guess a better way to phrase it would be piecemealing versus a more robust manner, such as reaching out through community radio, which you're not going to pay for the ads, PSA, and having someone from these different organizations actually asked to be a guest on different community radio stations here in the Sacramento region. And there is a community radio I won't say just about, but for everybody. There's an African-American community radio, Korean, Chinese, Spanish speaking, Hmong speaking. So they are out there. Again, the robust manner to reach community engagement is what I always look for. And I've been beating that drum for years, and each platform that I'm able to expound on that. So again, it's almost piecemealing. Yes, it's still getting out there, but to reach the entire umbrella for, let's just say, Sacramento County, you're going to need radio and television or I wouldn't say the Sacramento Bee that partly charge you, but some periodical or publication that reaches the masses. So just a little FYI and my 2 cents there. Thank you.
Just so you know, Barry, that's on our radar. We have that as part of one of the ways we plan to reach out, but we're a small team. So making it happen has been slow.
And television's not going to do much because unless it's a real big story like fires and things like that, I've dealt with them. They're not going to give you much time on something like this. So
I'm sorry, Chris, who was that you spoke of?
I said television. They're not going to give much time to this, what we're doing, unless it's a huge fire like in the summer, things like that. But this is small potatoes to them.
No, I understand that your regular, broadcast day, but your morning shows, which are ad nauseum from 4 a.m. until whatever, 9, 10 o'clock, the like Good Morning Sacramento and the nonsensical stuff that they do, they invite a lot of community activity there on their shows. So there is opportunity, not more opportunity there than it would be per your statement, like a regular news program later in prime time. But for early morning, I'm not saying be there at 4 o'clock in the morning, but they start from then until about 10. And again, they do a lot of community programming on those local morning shows. So there is opportunity there. But thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate any and all suggestions and ideas. I think we've all been trying really hard to get more engagement. I think and I will maybe pass it on to the outreach subcommittee, since that's already on your guys' radar. And maybe we can discuss more in the future.
All right.
I just want to make a note for folks. We have about 5 minutes left in this section of our agenda because we are reaching about our 8 p.m. hour. So just flagging that for folks.
Thank you. And thank you, Barry, because we have been talking about, a few months ago, we talked about how to do the new membership, how to do it differently, because it didn't seem to be working very well. And so I was tabling out at Southside Park a couple of weeks ago, and I had the registration applications, and I had the charts and graphs of what we were doing, what we've been doing in the last few years. And so again, when I go out and table, it's always well received, and there were people who were interested, and they were scanning our survey. And so I do think tabling will get us more exposure, as well as advertising on these any way we can, just getting the word out. People start talking about what we're doing and participating in this process. But thanks for the suggestions. Cece, are we on time? Is it time for you to take over?
I can, yes. We the note that I have here is to talk about agenda topics and then upcoming meetings. So I think it's safe that we can move on. I saw a thumbs up from Barry, so I'm going to take that as a cue to. So on the screen that I have shared here is the upcoming agenda topics, and just wanted to confirm with folks how that sounds, any feedback.
What was your question, Cece?
Just confirming, how does this upcoming agenda topics for our next meeting, anything else that people want to discuss based on what we chatted about today? Short question, does it look good?
It looks good.
Great, thanks, Bill.
Who would the CERT presentation be from? Let me ask this question. I mean, there's lots of groups doing CERT presentations. There's CARB, who's, has been, kind of watching throughout the state. Just want to get more specific direction on what that looks like so that we could help coordinate.
I think one of the things we could do is just spend some time in looking at all of us together, the email that Jennifer sent us on the different community organization, steering committees and the SERPs that they're doing and the progress that are made. And that was a very informative email, and we could probably work that one ourselves unless we want to invite a member from a steering committee. So which steering committee out of the 12 or 13 has been the most successful with their SERPs, Jennifer or Adriana? How many steering committees?
I'll chime in on that really quickly. I
okay,
think we
great.
want to go back and discuss with our other members our other teammates to see how we would characterize that. So we can take a look and see, what are the results in the sense of some of the SERPs that are currently being implemented, and we can come back to you guys and let you know what we've found and which SERP strategies or actions have proven effective and whatnot. But I think I'd like to have our team go back and take a look at which ones those might be and which communities those might be.
Femi, this is Mark. Maybe sorry, maybe I should raise my hand. I apologize. But maybe as the follow-up question on that, Vincent, if you're looking for like best practices and lessons learned, as CC has it listed here, Femi, isn't am I remembering wrong that this is something that not necessarily by community per se, but isn't this something a little bit that CARB's been working on in terms of sort of like the playbook, even of, ideas that have happened in different areas, just be able to share that so that maybe, I don't know if that's quite what Vincent and the team were looking for here, but as opposed to, who did what best, it's more like, hey, here's a lot of the best elements from, or here's just a lot of the elements that have seemed to have been successful.
Yeah, I would say that would be best captured in our latest draft of the blueprint. And we can put a link to that or a page that carries that in the chat here as well.
Vincent and the steering committee would you maybe, and I'm sort of framing the ask for you, but would your ask maybe be to see if maybe CARB could give a short presentation on some of that at your next engagement meeting? Would that be an accurate framing of what you're looking for? I'm asking sort of the CSC and you, Femi, if you guys be down for that. I'm sort of asking both ways.
I think that's what my question was kind of directed at Jennifer and Adriana, and I'm sorry, Femi, I forgot you were on the line, and the boss. And so what I was referring to is when I was reading the blueprint or one of the emails, some of the SERPs, they had to extend their SERPs, or they weren't completed in their time frame, and so they had to extend it. So those I was kind of characterizing as not the successful ones, but maybe they are still successful because they needed more time to get the work done and stuff like that. So I was just looking for some that were completed or they met their timelines, but I would be interested to see anything that you guys came up with and presented for us as well. Thank you. Hopefully you guys can do that for us next month.
Yeah, well, we can put something together for you guys to give you a flavor of what we're seeing across districts and communities, and you can, I'm a little bit hesitant to characterize it as a success because that's kind of the community's determination, but we can definitely let you know what we're seeing that have had a lot of progress within the SERPs or within those communities.
Thank you.
Just to draw something just since I have my mic open, the reason I had my hand up earlier was just to draw attention to this link I put in the chat a couple of minutes ago. It's a link to the California Energy Commission's website. I heard someone mention earlier a question about infrastructure. The California Energy Commission is the state agency that is lead over infrastructure. So it is really a site to take a look at if you are interested in kind of infrastructure and opportunities that exist there. They have their own programs, their own funding programs that in some cases are partnered with CARB, but most cases are their own program that they provide opportunities for for infrastructure to be placed in different areas across the state. So definitely something to make folks aware of if they are looking for infrastructure examples or infrastructure possibilities in their area.
Thanks, Femi, for mentioning that. Sorry, I know you had your hand up and then you put it down, so I appreciate you clarifying on that.
No problem.
So it sounds like there's an action item around that is for CARB to see what they can possibly present on for just regarding on what's going on and giving those updates to the next meeting in August. And then just regular committee updates, and just wanted to make sure that sounds good. And then we can move on to the next slide. And this is just a overview of what upcoming meetings are on the docket as of now. Questions, comments?
And all the Zoom links are all already on our website, the dates, the times, the Zoom links. So if anybody is out sharing that information with the community, it's already up there. So
Thanks, Air District.
And I think just to be clear, so we're going to do one meeting in December, and November is going to be open. That's what it looks like. And do we have a date for our January meeting as well?
I do not believe we have posted up yet for 2024, but you are right. We're getting close enough that we'll look to start populating the 2024 dates based on, we'll at least get a population of dates that we can share in the next meeting. Just make sure it's still good with the steering committee of going with this 4th Monday. But we can populate that out so that you can see what it looks like.
Great, thanks.
Okay. I have a question. I'm talking to a contact I know for years at a local TV station, and she's setting up a meeting tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and she's saying, sure, just let her know how can her station provide time to get the word out. So I have a meeting with her tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Cool.
To find out what platform they have and time frames and things of that nature. So
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, definitely send your updates to the team if you have them, when you have them, and we can see best how to incorporate that in.
I'm getting a lot of emails here. I guess that's what happened when you on the board of directors, huh?
Just a popular person. I'm looking in the chat and it looks like Adrian has a question, and maybe Air District staff might be able to answer is, when will you discuss virtual versus in-person for 2024? Back to Mark, what you were saying.
I think that'll partly be a discussion really for the steering committee. I know that the steering committee themselves visited that earlier this year in terms of, so what was everyone's comfort level? We're flexible on that, and probably that'll just be a good future discussion for the steering committee if they want to, what frequency they want to have the Zoom versus in person. But that's just a decision that we'll leave more open to the steering committee, and we'll be amenable either way.
Great. Thanks. So I have up here on the screen about the next meeting being the 28th for the community engagement folks. And then I know we are about time, so I just want to share the rest of these slides. I know we've kind of already had public comment. I know that some folks have shared things, but just want to say any last words for public comment. Maybe we can approach the idea and then maybe talk about it more, whether it's email or follow up for time's sake, but anything else that folks want to bring up.
Is that just for public comment or?
Yes, you're correct, Chris. I'm taking that pause as a no, and it is 8. So I want to adjourn us. And I know that some of you may or may not be familiar. I had a good laugh last meeting when we did this. We did the adjourn, and some of the folks, they created a chant. So Amanda would lead the chant and she would say, what do we want? And people would close the meeting out by shouting out South Sac Clean Air. So they unmute at the same time. Last time, I feel like I was the only one who did it. So I can lead it this time. So if everyone wants to and they're available, possible, they can unmute and then say, what do we want? And then you can all reply South Sac Clean Air, and we'll close out today's meeting. So I'll call out the chant. Get ready. What do we want?
South
Sac Clean Air.
Yeah, I love it.
Whoop.
Well, thanks everyone for a good meeting. Keeping you at 8 p.m. to adjourn you, and have a great night. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Night,
Thanks,
everyone. Thank
everybody,
you.
for showing up. Remember to tell your friends, tell your organizations or anybody to join the committee.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording now.